Say what?
Hello and welcome back. It's time for Say What, where we hear from those connected to our industry about things that are going on in our world of electrical apprenticeship. And this includes those wonderful topics that you are suggesting to us. So please keep those coming and offer to be a guest if you would like. I am your host, Cindy Sandifer, joined by Todd Stafford, the wonderful Executive Director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Today, we are joined by Martin Helms, who is the Executive Director of Helmets to Hardhats. Yeah, so Martin, thank you. Seriously, we do appreciate you being here.
No
I know.
problem. Pleasure.
Yeah, and we all go back. We go back to training director days with you, but I know that's not far enough. So I was wondering, can you just tell us who you are, right? Tell us the Todd and I, and then those that might be listening, who you are.
Yeah. So it's kind of where I got started in the electrical career. Let's just start there and just lay it all out because a lot of context there to get where I'm at today. So, I started in the electrical field when I was 15. Really, really young. I couldn't even drive. And my father would drop me off at a local non-union company at that time, but it was high school work. And I started sweeping the floors, organizing shelves, and that grew into wiring houses. And then one thing led to another, and I started doing, small commercial work through high school. But my parents didn't have the ability to pay for college, and this is in the 90s. So the message was, college, right? Registered apprenticeship was not a thing being spoken of. I didn't even know where to go. Like, you heard apprenticeship, it was a foreign word, let alone registered apprenticeship, right? So I joined the military when I was 17 between my junior and senior year of high school to get that college benefit to go to college. So I went to basic training between my junior and senior year, which a lot of people, it's their last real summer. And I was in basic training. So my English assignment to come back was, what'd you do this summer? And I literally could write about, I threw grenades and shot rocket launchers, AT-4s,
cool.
And they were like, oh, we went on a fishing trip. I'm like, I ain't got nothing on you. So anyway,
You can do that? I'm so sorry. That's a thing. Yeah. Can you still do that? That's a thing that you can do?
Up.
You're not.
I'm not doing. Oh, Lord knows.
You
our
missed the
poor
one.
country would be like,
the
no,
one.
we're good. Thanks.
So that's,
that's
cool.
cool.
and it's, my parents are great parents, but they couldn't afford that opportunity. Yeah. So you gotta, and that's what's cool about this country is that there's opportunities if you take advantage of them. So anyway, I did that, came home, completed my training, graduated high school, had to go back for a little bit of more military training. This was about February of 2001. And so I came home, and the contractor I was working for didn't have enough work, so I went to a different contractor. 9/11 happened. Just started college, all the stuff that's planned.
Right.
So then I shortly after that, I left for 2 years of a deployment. Between 2002 and 2005, there was 2 deployments between there. At that time, I was married, and I had a young family coming home from that last deployment. And my goal was to go to college in the evenings, work full-time, and I was doing this, and work full-time during the day for the non-union contractor I was working for. And I was doing this. I did this for about a year. But when I came home from that last deployment, Helmets to Hardhats came to our armory, in a cornfield armory in Ohio. And they said, look, we have this program. It connects people to registered apprenticeship programs within the construction industry, veterans and whatnot. So 5 minutes, pure, I was like, holy crap, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So I went to the website, filled out my profile, referred me to Akron area, local 306, filled out an application. This was 2005, 2006, early part of that. I was accepted into the program. I started my inside wireman apprenticeship. Paused my college career because my wife's, look, there's not enough candle here. All right, so, and I completed the apprenticeship, and then I went back and finished up my college and graduated from that in 2014. And then from 2010, when I topped out to that, I was immediately large projects, hospitals, job. I loved what I do. People think you take administrative positions because, it's easier or whatever. I'll wear a tool belt tomorrow. I love what I do. I'd go back to it in a heartbeat. But in 2017, the opportunity to become a training director happened with the local program. The same program I walked in 10 years earlier, nearly. So I was like, so I put my name in the hat, got offered the position, and I did that up till 2021 when I was offered the position to be the executive director of the same program that changed my life in 2005.
What a great story.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't stop there, Todd.
Oh, Lord.
So my military career has continued too. So because of the education I've received through the registered apprenticeship, the formal education, what I call professional education, my college education helped too, but that experience in the field of being professionally trained allowed me to take on a position of being a construction engineer technician in the U.S. Army, which is a warrant officer. So warrant officers make up roughly 2% of all your force in the Army. But because of that expertise, qualified me for that. So I went there and I went through that training, which was fun.
Separate discussion about how much fun that was.
Yeah. So being a warrant officer, you're a subject matter expert. So you have the real world training, you know how to get stuff done, but you're a liaison to the O grades, regular officers. And there's a lot of pressure in a good way, credibility with warrant officers because you're such a subject matter expert. And that's what this program did in the field and experience. That's where it got me. So I completed that training in 2000. This was about 2013, 14. And then again, I used those skills with that, and I deployed in 15 and 16 to the Middle East, in which I was able to give the opportunity to build barracks up in Iraq for our service members, built design a complex in Kuwait, and then I also designed a huge base in Jordan, all during this deployment. And it's that expertise, that all that was from that. And then, like I said, I come home and I was a training director after that, and then this opportunity to be the executive director. So there's a lot of passion behind what I do, but like I said, this program is a lot.
Your passion is obvious as well.
So this H2H is a great program, but we've done that for 42,000 service members to date, and that's the ones we can count for. We know there's more out there that slipped through the cracks. We didn't get them in the reporting process or whatever. So that's pretty awesome that you've changed 42,000 lives.
Yeah.
It's impressive. It makes you feel just extra special when you're sitting here talking to them about it too. I love it.
I know. I'm just like, I've probably just been like listening because you have not just full circle, you have circles within the full circle and I have this thing for connections and backstory. And so it's like, you've just fulfilled all of that, in what you shared. And I think that's so beautiful, this constant giving back and then coming back to this, and man.
And it makes it extra powerful when a person that's doing that is awful humble as they are, which you are, a very humble person as well. I've known Mark for years, and I just learned some new stories about him here sitting here today.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah, I learned some stuff off, we won't share it. We're not sharing it here. But yeah, so I think this is almost an impossible question. I'm going to ask it. What's your favorite part of this right now, what you're doing, the job now?
So now, the phase of I'm at my career, my life, whatever, is more like paying it forward. I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities I want to expose those other, the possibilities to people, those opportunities, not guarantees, but opportunities to people that, hey, and the other thing, everything matters. You talk about circles among circles, and I'll give you a short story. So I was in a meeting earlier this year, and I'm sitting in this meeting, and I'm looking at this gentleman across me. I'm like, I know this guy. I know this guy, and my wheels are turning. And here to find out, this was a 2-star general I served in 2000 with, that I had a breakfast with, that we coined people in the military when you do exceptional things. He coined me. It was one of the very first coins I ever received. I was a PFC. I mean, I'm like whale crap right now to this guy, but that's not how the military community leadership works. But 20 years ago, we're in this meeting, and I'm like, he introduced himself, and I said, I paused, and I'm like, you ain't gonna believe this. But you talk about circles among circles. Here's 20 years later, you run into a gentleman that's going to be influential to your program that you just didn't know at the time, but it just be careful what you say and what you do. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, circles among circles. So it's
and a military family is such a closed community anyway, small. When you think about it, relatively small, you think about it.
You can walk into a room and you don't know anyone, but if you find someone that's been in the military, like you got an instant bond because you go through good, bad, ugly, whatever that may be, but you got that connection and you can easily, talk stories similar, to other relationships that we've had. So, that's one thing about the military community. It's really a brotherhood, sisterhood, which is truly what the unions are about. And that's one selling point of the unions is that camaraderie amongst people, that it's more than an 8-hour workday. How's your family? What's going on?
Right.
Hey, did you know about this? And then you're sharing that stuff. Yeah, that's what it's about,
It's easy to see your passions about paying it forward. I see that as well. We have that same concept here at the Electrical Training Alliance. What we do is, we succeeded well for a reason, but we want to try to pay that forward, help veterans out, help our apprentices out any way we can. So thank you as well. I can see that.
Yeah, and that just, like you pointed out, it's so much more than just work, or a job. It's like, it's so personal. It's about relationships, and it's noticing the connections. Like, people have done these things for you, influenced your life in these moments, and now you're getting it to do it for someone else, and then you're creating opportunities for other people to have those experiences. And that's just, it's what we should be doing anyway. That's my soapbox there. But so if you're talking to someone, say, that's transitioning like from the military to civilian life, and they're looking for a career in the electrical industry, which is, both are passions for you, right? The industry as well as the military. Like, what advice do you give them?
So let's talk a little bit about transition. And I think sometimes people don't understand when you transition out of the military, like, what's that look like? So you're in a routine where it's pretty well structured, right? You got your chain of command, the people you got to report to, what your work schedule typically looks like. Your housing is paid for. Your healthcare is paid for. Your utilities, if you're on post, are paid for the most part. They're paid for. There's a lot of stuff that you're just not used to. And then you exit. And if you went in at 18 and you're coming out at 22 or whatever it is, that's kind of a shock. Like, then you got to find employment that's equal to your income. And let's talk about that, because a 22-year-old, say you're a high school student, you did your first enlistment, you're exiting out. And if you come out of, we'll say, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, you're exiting a job at an E4, which is not a specialist, which is not, that's normal progression in the Army. They make nearly $56,000 a year, plus they get 30 days vacation, plus their health care is paid for, and plus their retirement's already happening in the back end. Like, and I think people need to realize when you walk and all of a sudden, you're like, oh, life's real now.
Yeah.
Where am I going to go? Like, what am I going to do? And that's why there's so many programs out there to help with transitions, to include Helmets to Hardhats. I think on the receiving end, when you're a training director, when you're a union, when you're a JATC, that you need to understand that veteran, that 22-year-old veteran that's walking through your doors is not your normal 22-year-old. This is a person that's, one, their major structural change in their lifestyle. Two, they've had a decent income. With a lot of the parallels that we have, healthcare and retirement, has already happened in here with our collective bargaining agreement. So there's a lot of parallels to sell them on. But the other thing is, you got to relate to the responsibility that they've had. Okay, this wasn't a 22-year-old that went off to college and probably didn't have much of anything going on. This is a person that was trusted with a lot of value and money-wise in equipment in people's lives. So their mind doesn't think like, oh, I'm going to go start this venture. They're just in a different mindset. So I think understanding that transition person that's walked through your door, my advice to them is that, start seeking a plan before you exit, and there's transition assistance programs out there. There's several programs, but start getting involved within probably a year of you exiting service, ETS and exiting time of service. So, and start working that. And to get in the electrical industry, we mentioned the VEEP program, which is a veteran entry program into that, or using our program, Helmets to Hardhats. to figure out where all these opportunities exist across this nation so they can be a little at ease and start game planning that. So it's a little bit of an easier process when they exit.
Yeah. I got to the privilege of sharing a ride with someone. We were it's been a few years ago, so forgive my memory, but we were at one of our regional seminars and someone had come to speak about helmets to hard hats. And I got to ride with her back to the airport, which was fantastic. And we talked about that very thing. And her daughter had also been in the military and then, was in the electrical trade. Anyway, but that transition period, like you pointed out, of coming from all of these things, the structure as well as all these things were taken care of. And then to just feel almost just let go. If you don't have support, it's overwhelming. And then if you add to that, say someone that maybe has had some combat experience and have seen some things that just are very difficult for anybody's mind to process. And, so we were just talking about this compilation of things that can happen to an individual. And I think it's really good that you point that out, that there's a lot going on for this person.
Well, we've had a huge effort on electric training lines last couple of years about trying to make individuals feel more included, especially in the pandemic time, separation, all the things required by it, and sense of belonging. How do you belong to an organization and have somebody know that's going to take care of you when you're there? That's something we got to find a way to do better. And I'm all about bringing our veterans in and understanding I hear your message.
Yeah.
Because somebody comes in has been in charge of equipment, money, value, circumstance. All of a sudden now I'm taking care of my work reports, doing what? I got to do what? That tedious task is really way below what you really normally associate yourself with. Just as important. Not important, but it's not what you're used to doing in the position you were at, being relegated back to a level which you said, no, I'm better than that. I can see that.
Todd, that's a valid point. I put on a seminar a couple months ago, and about retaining veterans. And when you're used to a responsibility level of here, and then they come down work reports. That's all I got to in my homework. That's all I got to do. Right. Like it's almost too easy for them. They need a challenge, and I encourage anyone that has service members in the educational programs that we have, apprenticeships, that give them some type of responsibility in addition to the normal classmates. If that's running a lab, hey, you're responsible for putting away the tools. Make sure they're putting back. Just little stuff like that, because that's they like that challenge. That's what they've been there. Exactly. Yeah. Hey, I need to make sure by 15 minutes before the class is over that we're putting stuff away. Whatever that is, give them that responsibility, because that makes them click, and stuff. Or that year's class representative, whatever it is, depending on what JATC
even
and what.
If they've only been there for one hitch, that sense of responsibility has been ingrained over the last 2 or 3 years there. Listen, no doubt about it. So.
Right. Well, and it's a win-win, for for the JTC, for that individual, and then you can find ways of even bringing in like mentorship and pairings, and I mean, there's just so much that you can do with it, and it doesn't take a ton of creativity, even really. I mean, you're just talking about some basic things. So, speaking of helmets to hard hats, some people may not know much, but there's probably, my guess, some common misconceptions, misunderstandings about what it is. Do you clear anything up for us?
Yeah. So I want to come back to one other thing on the transition and the training directors and the GI Bill. We talk about that income of leaving at $56,000. So if you think your typical, apprenticeship program between $15 and $20 an hour for their first period apprentice, that's only $40,000 a year. So roughly. So that GI Bill is huge. So whoever the school certifying official, whatever the program, on that onboarding of that apprentice, they got to make sure they're assisting them in every way possible with the VA to get that benefit to them sooner and later. Because a lot of times at 22 years old, you got responsibilities. Typically, you're probably either have dependents or at least a car payment. You got bills to pay. So that other thing, and if you're advertising for service members, you have to have that GI Bill in there. I say within the first 2 sentences of a conversation or the first thing that pops up on your posting for that, because it's important. It's huge.
Very good.
That is huge. And having a good liaison, I want to plug that, because you're at the JTC I came from, we did have a really good relationship with the liaison in, she was located in Nashville, Tennessee, and she was great. And so being able to, because the JTC probably can't answer all the questions, right? And don't have all the information. So, I think to maybe make the JTC feel a little more at ease, you don't have to know everything about a GI Bill and how it works. You need to know who to contact and who to send that apprentice to. And so that's what's important. But sorry, go ahead.
So let's talk about Helms to Hardhats and what we
Yeah,
do. So
yeah.
Helms to Hardhats, it was a program that started in 2003 by the National Building Trades Union. So the IBW and all the other construction unions to do a veteran recruitment program. We connect transition and active duty service members, reservists, National Guard, and current veterans to the organized skilled trades, mainly through registered apprenticeship. But depending on your skill sets, you may be viable for one of our signatory contractors, being a project manager or whatnot, estimator, whatever they really need to do their administrative duties. So, so that's our program. We get out, we outreach to all different levels of the military. I was just at a conference last week in which I had the opportunity to speak to very high-level National Guard generals, frankly, and to the lowest level, and that's really where we want to be, at the lowest level, get that message to them to say, hey, we're a great opportunity. We've been doing that for 20 years now. And, like I said, 42,000 service members we've connected with and changed their lives. We are not a full wraparound service. We're a resource to tell everyone about the different programs that are out there. We do that through the training centers typically, or the local puts a post-in on our job board of their registered apprenticeship opportunity, or the employers of what opportunities they have. So a job board's similar like Indeed, but it's kind of a closed door one. It's only for our contractors, our unions to use, and then they can see that. So, and yeah, that's what we do. And outreach and talk and spread the message is what we do.
And get people about as well. What can we do to help? I know that's it.
Yeah.
But we're not a full wraparound service. Coming back to that, a lot of it depends on the JATCs. We can get them to your doorstep, but after that, they, the training centers and whoever has to.
Yeah, and Martin and I were talking about it. He's being awful polite about talking about how our selection process is working our apprenticeship program sometime, and how we select apprentices once a year, for example. Well, a transitioning veteran is not only getting out once a year. Other times of the year, we have to find ways to be flexible and work with the transitioning veteran, as well as time of discharge and job opportunities.
Yeah.
So we have tools available. We just got to think outside the box sometimes and how we employ.
Yeah. So I just got the report this morning. July's veteran unemployment is at 2.4%. It's almost 1.5% below the non-veteran. And what I tell people is, if you have a service member walk through the door and you don't move on them, you're going to lose them.
Right.
Because there's industries out there that are hiring veterans $25-$30 an hour, no experience, whatever. They'll train them because they understand the value and the attributes that service member brings, and they're willing to pay that money up front to hook them and get them into their companies or corporations or wherever they belong. So if you want your service members you got to move quick, and like I said, you got to have your stuff in order to do that. It's going to be challenging in some aspects here in the future because they're just so employable.
So such demand there, we have to find a way we adjust our selection process to take care of the needs, no doubt, or we're going to lose them. And our largest failure point in our apprenticeship program in the selection process of getting the apprentices not going to graduate, right? How do we match up? Well, statistically, we pull the statistics level out and look at it. We're better off making that choice in the veteran side, believe it or not, in our general population. We look at overall statistics. And it does show. And how we can get somebody involved in the industry faster, and they're ready to go to work tomorrow and understand what it's like to get up and go to work, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that, you're talking about several components, but one of them is also creating, because our work with being more inclusive, making it a place to belong, and that includes for anybody. That's everybody, right? So if you've got these people, right, service members coming from this brother and sisterhood, this natural one where you are eat, sleep, drink, repeat kind of thing, and so
literally.
you've created like actually, not just saying it. And so that's what your life has been. If any person can go from that to another place of belonging, another place where they feel like they matter, that they're supported, that they're encouraged, that they have a chance to be a partner in that as well. You can't lose in that for anyone, but particularly someone who's coming out of that, like to be able to just walk back into it, just in a different arena, if you will.
Yeah.
Like it's just perfect. So it's like we have all these other things we're talking about, like application and entry and grabbing them when they're interested, but then also what are we putting them into? What kind of environment do we have? And again, that's for any applicant.
Right.
But as we're speaking about this veteran who's coming from this natural family, like they're looking for that sense of belonging again.
Yeah, and you mentioned mentor apprenticeships. I know there's some JATCs within the IBW and some others, but I think Philadelphia Local 98. I think I got that right. So they have one for apprentices. They put it together so when they have that new service member come in, they add them to their, text message and chat, whatever. Say, hey, welcome aboard. If you have any questions, let them know. And that is, that's huge.
That's invaluable,
That's
right.
yeah, huge. Just for that sense of belonging and being part of the team, and applaud to all those different organizations that are doing that, because that does matter.
We have several that are doing that same
Yeah.
thing, just for a reason, and it's not our idea. We've been promoting, hey, we need a mentoring program, big brother, big sister program for our apprentices in general, but especially on our veteran side, making them feel a sense of belonging, because that's a huge need there. I understand where they're coming from, where they're getting to. We recognize that. It's good to hear.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
good. Yeah, and that's not the top telling me. This is the bottom telling me. Which it's working
That's
at the
right,
bottom's
exactly.
telling
Bottom
you.
is perfect.
So
That's what you want to hear.
Right.
Yeah.
If the people that it's actually impacting, because we can say a lot of things
Right.
top down and you don't even know if it's working.
Right.
But when the people that are actually impacted and influenced by it, that's huge. So I guess like wrapping up, and you've kind of already touched on this, but what can JTCs and AJTCs do to assist this effort? And I guess you're probably just recapping some things you've said, really.
So
But
it's almost flip. It's what can H2H help them with? We can get them the doorstep. What can we do? Be involved with us. If we're going through some remodeling of our website and job board right now that's getting ready to release here in the next coming months, which is going to be huge. And their involvement on that is that. So if they don't put a job board post in and make it look good and keep it relevant, because people can search our job board at 3 a.m. in their couch or whatever. If it doesn't look good, video content, GI Bill, what's your program look like? That's the best thing they can do, is keeping that up to par and relevant, and being involved. We got, if you haven't had a job posting on H2H, get an account, get it set up. Because if you don't have it with us and someone's going back to, I'm going to make something up, Memphis, Tennessee.
Right.
I think, actually, is that where you're from?
no,
Nashville.
I'm in
Okay,
Knoxville
good. I was
area,
like, man, I
but
didn't do that on
no,
purpose.
let's go
But
Memphis.
if you're from that area and you never put a posting up and that veteran's coming back, you don't exist. So you have to get involved, or that service member's not going to know about you through our program.
Right. And reach out to you. Like, I think that's something you've said a couple of times in different ways. But, if the JTC has questions,
Yes,
reach out
please.
and ask. Like, don't just say, well, I'm not sure. Find out, right? Find out how to do this, what
we
works.
have a lot of resources. Some of our staff members were school certified officials. So if it's a GI Bill question, at least, we can't give full blown advice, but we can be like, hey, I've been there. Let's try this, or at least give some resources, or, if you're having trouble with a post, and let us know. We got kind of creative people on staff, and we can reach out to and help with a template and grow. But and some pointers, just use us every way possible to get the service
He's
members.
committed now. Martin, I was discussing
Yeah.
earlier. I've committed to him now. So the meetings we have, regionals we have, and all that, we open up the spot. I want him there to talk, because he said, what can H2H do for us and AJCs do for him? Well, there's one method we do to start communication, start the
Sure.
pathway, get him in front so we can talk, have this conversation.
Awareness, right? It starts with
aware.
knowing
Exactly.
it exists and what we can do. And so thank you. Like, I have so many thanks you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your work in the electrical industry. Thank you for your work with Helmets to Hardhats and for the partnership with us. Like, just lots of thanks to you. And
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
It's a joy.
I
every
will
day.
treat you with some mint chocolate chip ice cream. So
Nice.
that's how we roll.
This chocolate man is close enough.
Chocolate mint and mint chocolate chip. I mean, drinks too, but you got to separate. Drinks and ice cream don't go together. So you
no.
have to separate those. So, but thank you seriously
Yeah, no
so
problem.
much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Todd.
Todd. I kind of love Martin. He's pretty great.
He's
What
a
do you
great guy. And I've
Yeah.
known Martin for years, and hearing his passion now with the position he has with H2H just elevates what we do in our industry, but also he's bringing it to passion to his veterans community as well. And if we pull those two communities together, the veterans community, our industry as an accepting organization and working with veterans, I can see his passion and I enjoy it, and I want to be a part of it, what he's down to.
Absolutely. What's great, so we started TD Connect however long ago, and he was one of the first people to volunteer to help.
Right.
So I didn't know Martin I knew he was a training director. That was the extent of it. And so he offered to help and was always offering, like, anything he could do. So then when I heard he was leaving to go to Helmets to Hardhats, the very selfish part of me was like, but no. But I mean, of course I was happy, but to hear him like, you're just like, man, he was meant to be a part of our industry. He was meant to be a training director, and he was meant to work with veterans at Helmets to Hardhats.
He has two communities he's trying to support there, and he's doing a great job of both. And I'm going to, I'll support that any way you can.
Yeah. Like the balance. He gets it. So Martin, like, hear me, Martin. Thank you so much for being with us, for coming in studio. I know that's not always easy for our guests. So thank you for doing that and for everything you and the team at Helmets to Hardhats do for the men and women who have served our country. Big thanks to you, the listeners, for taking time to join us and be a part of our podcast. Remember, we want to hear from you. So just shoot over an email at saywhat, or to, not yet, say what, SAYWATT at electricaltrainingalliance.org. We are going to have our next episode in December, but until then, you stay connected with us through our newsletters, blog posts, follow us on social media, connect and subscribe to this podcast. Tell somebody about it and let them enjoy it too. Stay powered up, and we will see you next time.
Say what?